cover energy in this segment, and we were leaning towards the Nordstream 2 fiasco. A Pulitzer Prize winner by the name of Seymour Hersh has been reporting he has evidence that the U.S. Navy divers planted the bombs that blew up that pipeline. It's an inflammatory accusation, and we thought it was pretty fascinating. The pipeline runs between Russia and Germany at the bottom of the Baltic Sea, and it supplies Europe with gas exports. Climate scientists call the amount of damage it caused criminal, and the White House has adamantly denied the report. And knowing our next guest so well, we were a little concerned and thought it would be like throwing a steak to a Doberman. So we pivoted a little bit and decided to talk about the $100 oil folks are saying. So the Russians play this in this story as well, as they announced overnight that they'll cut production by 500,000 barrels per day in response to the West sanctions. And of course, oil rallied. What about our strategic petroleum reserve? And what about that magic $70 level where we're supposed to be refilling it? Well, our next guest always has a unique take. Please welcome into the show Mike Lee of Mike Lee Strategy. I think both of our heads would have exploded if we had to talk about Nord Stream 2. That's the problem. So that was going to get probably rough and tumble because it's just absolutely the things that we do. Anyway, what do you think about this oil? I haven't heard anything about doing, any starting to, we got down to $70, like 70.11 was a low. Are we going to be able to fill this thing if things take, if we have a war, if we have some conflicts? I mean, this thing could run away from them.
It's not only that the price is not where they want to buy it. I don't believe there is a desire from this Department of Energy to refill it, right? It was released not in an emergency, but as a political tool to try to suppress the price of gasoline, as that was a key driver towards low poll numbers for the president. So, that in itself is an impeachable offense. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is there for times like when there's war in Iraq. So George H.W. Bush used it. That's what it's there for. It's there for total and complete emergencies. And let's just rewind not that long ago, just under 3 years, when the front month contract went negative, and President Donald Trump was screaming from the rooftops, let's buy as much as we possibly can for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So I simply don't believe there's a will in this Department of Energy to make the use of fossil fuels easier or better or cheaper for anyone in this country. So look, as we look at the price going forward, you have two competing kind of factors here. The first is, the price of oil is largely dictated by cartels. In this case, Russia's cutting supply. I believe if we were to get into the 60s, Saudi Arabia and some of these other countries would work very hard to cut supply. But that's competing with demand falling off due to global economic slowdown. So I don't think we'll get to 100, but I have a hard time seeing 60.
Well, and it's pretty frustrating, too, because I'm asking you a question right now that I don't know the answer to, and hopefully you do. If you don't, I mean, why would we sell oil out of our strategic reserve? I don't understand that.
For political purposes, to make it look like they're doing something and that they hear the Americans complaining about the skyrocketing price of oil. Look, November of 2020, it was $1.89 a gallon. Okay, so that was the national average. Today we're somewhere around $3.
$3.50.
Yeah. So basically, almost double from where we were then. The first day of this administration, they stopped the Keystone Pipeline, signaling a war on fossil fuels, and you have the head of the Department of Energy does not know how many barrels of oil we produce a day, has stated that the way out of this energy crisis is somehow we're going to go from 18% renewables to 80% in a short period of time, even though despite trillions of dollars of investment, we've only gone from 14 to 18 over the last 40 or so years. So look, it's really, when you deal in the world of political narratives and political ideology to solve real world problems, in certain circumstances, they make sense, but a lot of these are fantasy. And they're fairy tale, and there are dire consequences. And the only reason we were selling out of this Strategic Petroleum Oil Reserve was to, fit political narratives. I don't believe it actually really helped the price of gasoline. And it's the same thing. Like when you vilify the leaders of Saudi Arabia, maybe for good reason, maybe for not, maybe there's some nuance to it, maybe there isn't. But remember, we won the Cold War because the Saudis collapsed the price of oil in the 80s. So they are an important ally, whether, for better or for worse. But now, if you don't want them as an ally or you want to demonize them, you're going to pay for it. And why would you double down in weakening our country to pay the repercussions for that? The only reason I can think of is short-term political gain.
And at the same time, I mean, look at that, whatever those people put up, that nuclear clock, right? We're in a pretty tenuous time here. This is exactly the time you would want to make sure that you had that reserve absolutely chock full in case something did go wrong, i.e. Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, or whatever. And we're at an absolute weakness going into maybe a pretty, very difficult time.
Yeah, look, it seems that this administration is not really concerned with second and third order effects and all the different things that can happen, a la blowing up this Nordstream pipeline, right? If you believe Seymour Hersh, it's to defend the U.S. dollar, and that it's to send a warning shot to anybody that thinks they can replace the petrodollar. Look, to me, that looks like escalation, more of a reason why we should have a large strategic petroleum oil reserve, why we should be drilling like crazy, why we need to be energy independent, because energy is power. Right. Energy is power. And the reason, a major reason why we were against Russia and Germany putting together this Nord Stream 2 is, how can you have an alliance with people that are solely dependent on your, supposed enemy for all of their energy needs?
Right.
And so, there are no easy solutions at this point, and it seems like every decision being made is for a positive headline in the New York Times or the Washington Post, not necessarily to solve the problem.
I totally agree with you. I mean, we're speaking from the same hymn sheet. Really appreciate you coming on. That was awesome.